Yes, Merry fucking Christmas, and I'm not sugarcoating, this is going to be the disappointing and worst metal albums of 2021. It certainly is pretty fucking hot here. I mean, like, we're heading towards 35 degrees. It is an absolute scorch of a Christmas, especially here in Victoria, and we are edging closer to our 10th lockdown. Holy shit, restrictions are coming back, and I'm not very fucking happy, and I thought this would be the perfect time for the disappointing and worst fucking albums of 2021. So first of all, we're going to the disappointing albums, and then I'm going to give you my top 4 pieces of shit. Holy shit. So let's get on with it. Before I start, pop your disappointing worst albums down below. A lot of people will be shocked about my disappointing albums list, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. Coming in at number 6 is Payrsech Dahi Kazaita. After the masterpiece Payrsech Dahi Involved, he produced a very disappointing album called Kazaita. This is not a bad album per se, but it is on the realm of just an average album. Yes, Payrsech Dahi is black metal. There are some really catchy riffs on it. They're just catchy riffs. There's just no emotion that you get from Payrsech Dahi, from Involved, and it's just a hell of a mess. It's a hell of a mess of an album, and I just don't want to go back to it. I don't want to listen to it again. I think Involved is an amazing album, but Kazaita, their sophomore album, was a very disappointing album because I was expecting a lot more. The riffs are just repetitive over and over again. There's not much musical composition on this. Although there are some good moments, I just feel that it is below par for Payrsech Dahi. After producing 2 hours of masterful music, we get lo-fi production Kazaita, and the riffs are catchy, but that's all. It's not a bad album, it's just a very disappointing album. Coming at number 5 is Black Veil Brides, The Phantom Tomorrow. Really do enjoy Black Veil Brides stuff, like I like all their albums, and although their previous album, which was called fucking Can't Remember, that was an okay album, but you could tell that Black Veil Brides was sort of degrading their music. And The Phantom Tomorrow, I was pretty excited with The Phantom Tomorrow, but I wasn't that excited with the singles that were released. This is just the harsh vocals are gone. You get some really good guitar work. It's, again, not a bad album. It's like a rinse and repeat for Black Veil Brides now, and quite frankly, I'm fucking sick and tired of it. Another disappointing album of the year. I was expecting a lot more by Black Veil Brides, but yeah, The Phantom Tomorrow really disappointed me. I don't know if I'm going to continue to support this band if they continue to rinse and repeat the same old shit. Next up is Lords of Black, Alchemy of Souls Part 2. Really love Lords of Black, Alchemy Souls Part 1, and I thought Part 2 was going to be very similar to Part 1, except there's a lot of letdown on this album. There's a lot of letdown. It's less proggier. There are some interesting moments, interesting synths as well, but the story doesn't really progress as much as I thought. Good concept albums overall. It's a good album, but it's not a great album like Alchemy of Souls Part 1, that's for sure. And that really disappointed me. It disappointed me because I thought Alchemy of Souls Part 1 was a fantastic prog power metal album. The vocalist, who sounds very similar to Ronnie James Dio, was absolutely fucking fantastic. His vocals are great on Alchemy of Souls Part 2, but it's just the songs aren't as catchy as Alchemy of Souls Part 1, and that's why I feel it's a disappointing album. It's a disappointing album because I wanted a little bit more. Next up is, well, a lot of people's favorite albums. Like, this would easily be in a lot of people's top 10s. I know the mainstream metal outlets would have this in top 10, but it's a disappointing album for me. It's Gojira Fortitude. As you all know, I'm not really a big fan of Gojira, and this didn't cement me a fan. Fortitude is a good album, you could say. Like, I would play this now and again just for background music. I've heard a lot of other Gojira albums, and I think they're very good. I know Kwesi showed me a few Gojira albums, but I'm really not a big fan. It hasn't really clicked for me. But I know the other albums are better than Fortitude. I can understand it, I do respect it, but I just feel that Fortitude is just mediocre album, man. It's a mediocre album. It does have a replayable factor. Sometimes I just don't want to go back and listen to it. Maybe I will go back, maybe it will click for me one day, but at the moment it's pretty disappointing album. Like, there's a lot of hype. A lot of hype was building for this album. Like, I know a lot of reviewers fucking love this album. I listened to it, I said, yeah, it's a good album, but do I want to play it again? Will I dedicate this into my top 10? Fuck no. No, get in the fucking bin. Next up is one of my most disappointing albums. It's Rivers of Nihil, The Work. Now, this isn't a bad album, don't get me wrong. There are some fantastic catchy moments on this. Like, you got a Clean Focus, My Body, My Pride. Oh, you got Tower 2 and you got Terrestrial for Work. Don't get me wrong, this is a very good progressive metal album, but it's very different to Where Owls Know My Name, which was a fucking masterpiece. There are some beautiful somber moments on this album. There are just interesting industrial elements. They have fucking worked so hard with this album. They really have. And don't get me wrong, I will play this album over and over again. I've played this album over and over again. It is going to be it is going to be in my top 100. It will be in my top 100, but very low down. It is a disappointing album, but it's a good album, if you get what I mean. It's a good album, but I still was pretty fucking disappointed because they have seemed to have lost their identity on this. That's all I can say. I know they had changed the sound. They wanted something a little bit different. And yeah, The Work is a very good LP, but I just feel they sort of missed the mark because at times it doesn't really sound like technical death metal. Sounds more like on the metalcore-ish side of things, but I do really enjoy this album, but I was very disappointed. I was very disappointed when this was released. Okay, so my number one disappointing albums of 2021. It's one of my favorite bands of all fucking time. No, it's not Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's on a different list. It's Dream Theater, View from the Top of the World. Okay, so initially I thought this was a very good album. It just feels like Dream Theater are on fucking autopilot. For the first time ever, I didn't feel as connected to a Dream Theater album. I listened to it probably about 10 times, did my review, and I gotta admit that I was very excited about the new Dream Theater album. Excitement escalated the review a bit. I was very excited, and I really ranked up the score to about an 8 out of 10. Well, after giving some time with this LP, about 3 months now. First week I played it a hell of a lot, but then I realized that, yeah, this is by far one of their weakest albums. James LaBrie's vocals are in a different register. Man, I do not feel much emotion on this. Like a lot of Dream Theater albums, I feel like there's just so much emotion from the guitar by Petrucci. On this, it just feels like there is just so much wankery with just no concept to the songs. There are just, yeah, this is, I hate to say this, but this, A View from the Top of the World, is my most disappointing album this year. There are instrumental passages that, dare I say, there's just so much wankery on this, just so much wankery, so many guitar solos, that there's just no need to be just so much wankery on this album. That's why I feel like this is one of the worst. Give me the Astonishing any fucking time. Astonishing is so much better than A View from the Top of the World, and I know that's a controversial opinion, but I didn't really give a fuck. This is my opinion, but yeah, A View from the Top of the World is a pretty disappointing album by Dream Theater. Alright, so now we go to the worst albums of 2021, and honestly, I did 15 last year, I believe it or not, and yeah, it was very hard to find worst albums of 2021 because 2021 has been a spectacular year for metal. So coming at number 4 is Limp Bizkit Still Sucks. I know a lot of metal outlets, especially in mainstream such as Loudwire and Even Loud Sound and all the other shitty mainstream outlets, have put Limp Bizkit into the top 10s of the best metal albums of 2021. Have they got fucking rocks in their heads? I struggled to listen to this album, Still Sucks. Now, I gotta admit, Don't Change, which was originally an INXS song, I love that song, and I think it's a fantastic cover by Limp Bizkit, But man, this album sucks. It sucks, and I think it's one of the worst fucking albums of 2021. It just hurts my head. Production's okay, I guess. I know it was a surprise album. Limp Bizkit are a fun band, but yeah, this album sucks. Next up is A Day to Remember, You're Welcome. Now, this is a very interesting album overall. I believe that I gave it a pretty low score in my review when I reviewed. A Day to Remember, You're Welcome. I heard this a few times, and yeah, it's not that good. It's not that good. This is A Day to Remember's worst fucking albums. It's one of the worst fucking albums of the year. It's not a replayable album. There's a song on this called Brick Wall where they sort of copy and paste like different sections of different songs. And it's just a fucking mess, it really is. Viva La Mexico is just such a weird song overall. Degenerance is sort of punky, which I fucking hate. You're Welcome, A Day to Remember, can get in the fucking bin because it's just an awful album overall. But yeah, one of the worst. Oh, so next up is Psycho Sinner, and we're talking about all 9 albums Jeremy released this year. I honestly don't know how people can listen to this. Listen, I respect Jeremy and his work and everything like that, but he just cannot write albums. He can't write very good albums, and I feel like there's a bit of potential for this band, but the riffs, the guitar work, the drumming's really good as well, but I just feel the vocals are just awful. They're just awful, even the lyrics as well, the way the songs progress. They're not very good albums, and easily fits into the worst metal albums of 2021. I just feel that Jeremy needs to take a step back, and just choose what songs would fit in like a 46-minute album. Don't need to fucking create 9 fucking albums of just pure shit. I feel that maybe Psycho Sinner's next album, they'll take their time, and it might possibly not be in the worst metal albums of that year. But yeah, the Psycho Sinner albums are the worst metal albums, are one of the worst metal albums of 2021. So next up is Dungeon Wolf, Metal's Back. What can I say about this album? Don't get me wrong, there are some interesting moments, but the overall production is pure shit. They say it's raw, but it's just awful. It's very muffled, it's very hollow. The fucking vocals on this, the vocals are fucking atrocious. They really are. Holy shit. And this is the worst fucking vocalist I ever fucking heard on a metal fucking album. Can you believe it? The vocals are so damn high in the mix. The overall production's fucking awful. This is the fucking worst metal album of 2021. And to think like the lyrics aren't even funny. I think they're trying to be a jokey band, a parody band, but holy shit, they fail big time. Brian Posehn's Grandpa Metal is so much better than this piece of shit. Dungeon Wolf, they even record their mistakes, even that they don't really care. It's just they think they're bringing heavy metal back, but holy shit, they don't need to bring heavy metal back. Heavy metal is back, and we don't need to listen to Dungeon Wolf. Okay, so I gotta admit that one song is pretty catchy, and that's Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo Baggins. Yeah, it's a pretty catchy song, I gotta admit. It's catchy, it gets stuck in your head, but the rest of the fucking album is atrocious. It really is. The guitar solos are okay. I'm a bit torn, but give me any Psycho Sinner album to Dungeon Wolf album, and I'll fucking choose Psycho Sinner than Dungeon Wolf. Holy shit, Metal's Back is a fucking disgrace, and Metal's Back can get into the dumpster. That's it for the worst metal albums of 2021. Hope you did enjoy. Let me know in the comments below your favorite worst disappointing metal albums of 2021, and I will see you in the next one.